Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Good Girl Syndrome Show. My name is Julie Vander Meulen or Julie Vander Meulen, if you do not know me. And I am what I call an empowerment coach for high achieving women. And I specialize in a concept that I've developed a whole framework around what I call Good Girl Syndrome. And that's what this show is all about. So every single week, twice a week, we unpack one of the good girl patterns that we may have. And on Wednesday, we see how, like, one of you asks me a question or tells me a story or whatever it is, right? And I unpack it. I pretend to be doing a coaching session or mentoring session without the person being in the room. I just take the text that they left for me in the Google form that, by the way, you can find in the description box if you're interested in having your question answered or telling me your story and receiving some coaching from me here in the Good Girl Syndrome show. Um, and then based on that topic, I keep that same topic. And on Sundays, which is today, on Sunday, then I talk about how I deal with it in my own life, like how it shows up for me, this good girl syndrome pattern. And then, how have I dealt with it? What is still remaining right now? Like this type of conversation. And then from that, like from both of those episodes in a week, I create what I call the Sunday Sanctuary newsletter. It's free. If you want to register, you can find the link in a description box as well. And so every Sunday I send newsletter based on that same topic. I link, of course, to the two videos. What are the key takeaways? So if you don't have the time to watch 30 minutes in total, like 1 hour, 30 minutes for this video, 30 minutes for my Wednesday video, then you can just go in the Sunday Sanctuary newsletter, see it in 5 minutes, right? Go through it, see the big key takeaways. And then there's some exercises that you can do there. So it's like personal development exercises where you can see how to apply this topic and the key takeaways to your own life. So it's a bit of a self-reflection type of thing, right? So if you're interested in that, go check out the description box. While I'm saying all these things, because I keep forgetting, if you're here and you're enjoying this so far, please say hello. Put it in the comments. Say hi to me. Say who you are, where you're from. If you have something specific that you love, please say it. Put a thumbs up if you're enjoying these because you're encouraging me every single time you interact with me. I can see it and it. Oh my God, I'm gonna figure this out. It encourages me to continue and to keep pouring like all of my energy and love and so on in all of that, and to keep learning to make these better, right? So what else? I think I've said all. And if you think that someone else would be interested in these, please share it with them. We never know whom we may help with the content that we create, right? And so, yeah, I think with that we can start. So, in on Wednesday, we talked about closing the year and how some of us, actually many of us, can feel like a failure because we compare ourselves. Like we reach the end of the year, we can start comparing ourselves to other people. And we had Christina from the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, from the Netherlands, who was saying, I'm not going to do the whole thing. If you want to watch it, go watch the other episode, the Wednesday episode, where Christina is mentioning how, like, seeing all the lovely people on social media, right, who tell us about their amazing lives, especially at this time of the year, it makes her feel like a failure, like she's behind, because she's comparing herself, basically. And so today, for me, I'm going to talk about like what closing the year looks like for me and what type of patterns I live with and like what feeling behind looks like for me in this year and what I do about it and how I deal with it. And then because we're at the end of the year, then next week I've chosen a question where we're going to talk about like New Year resolutions, goal setting, all these different things. Wednesday, one of the wonderful people who are in my audience, I'll be answering one of their questions. And then on Sunday, I'll be telling you all about mine. And there might be a little gift in the Sunday Sanctuary newsletter if you're interested. I will give you a little something to help you out. One, with the end of year, wrapping up and, kind of seeing all the beauty of this year and how well you've done and how much you've changed, right? How much you've grown and healed. And I'm going to give you a little something next week as well in a Sunday Sanctuary newsletter so that you can start, envisioning this beautiful life of yours for 2026. So, on to closing this year for me. So contrary to Christina, um, my issue right now is not that I'm comparing myself to other people. Like, it's not that I'm seeing things on social media or I'm seeing friends or I'm seeing other people and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so behind compared to them. That's not how I feel. I used to feel like that. I used to feel like that in the past. Now I don't. I had made a decision a few years ago. I had seen, I think it was something from Alex Hormozy. I've been following him for years. I really, really love his content. Some of it is a lot of, masculine, very push energy, right? Some of those things resonate a little less for me nowadays, but I love his business principles, a lot of his life principles. And one of them was that he was saying that his only competition was himself. Um, and to me, that like really changed my life back in the day because before I was always looking to other people and I was thinking they were doing so fantastic. And so what that was one of the reasons or the excuses why I was never trying new things, like why I was always staying in my comfort zone. If you've seen a lot of these episodes of the Good Girl Syndrome show with me, there's I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago where I was talking about that about fear of failure, taking risks, and how things evolved for me. So if you're interested in that, go watch that. Um, but yeah, so I had made that conscious decision a few years ago that I would stop comparing and competing with other people, and instead focus on me, like bring back the energy to me, and like focus on what I can control, which is, my own actions, my own thoughts, and my own actions. That's where I was a few years ago. I think 2 or 3 years ago is where I was in my growth process. And it worked pretty well for the most part in the sense that, well, nowadays I don't really care what other people are doing and, how they're doing and so on and so forth. If anything, it inspires me. So I love seeing people who are way ahead of me, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, that's what I can aspire to, if you see what I mean. So it inspires me more than anything else. Um, yeah, I'm not going to say that sometimes I don't have other types of emotions where I can be a little jealous. I'm human, right? But for the most part, that's not what it triggers in me. It always ends up being something creative and constructive where I want to do something about it. If it bothers me, then I'll do something about it. And most of the time, it just inspires me and makes me look forward to what's possible in this life and for myself and for the mission and so on and so forth. However, what this has created, because every single thing that you choose has beautiful things to them, right? A lot of gifts. There's also always a cost to the things that you choose, right? And one of the costs for me has been that I've become very, very competitive with myself, meaning that my visions for myself, I was always more of like an idealist, someone who's a visionary. I'm very I have a very strategic mind, and I'm someone who is always looking to the future. And since I was very little, sometimes but it still is sometimes difficult for people around me to understand, um, you know, my choices or what I'm doing because they're thinking about, like what is the impact of your decision right now? Like this is not comfortable for you right now, or this is not, this does not give you status right now, right? And I'm not looking at that. I'm not looking at right now, and I'm not looking at like the near future. I'm okay with suffering some pain, let's say, for my decisions if I know that in the future they're going to give me something really, really good and something very aligned and something very impactful and so on and so forth. So I'm someone who has become, thanks to this, right? Someone who's able to make a lot of sacrifice in the now and in the near future. I'm okay with being uncomfortable, with being, ridiculed, with being, I'm fine with that. Like, it's not that I particularly like it, but I'm okay with it because to me, the trade-off of that is that over the long run, I know where I'm going and I know what I'm building, um, which is a gift. However, in that, it also means that I have big, big visions, right? And so I'm someone who has a tendency in general for life, but specifically for myself, to put very, very high expectations on myself, very high standards as well of how I live and who I am and how I behave and all of these things, right? You can see good girl patterns in there, right? Um, but also very, very, like, I expect myself to perform and to achieve big things, right? And a lot of the things that I achieve, I do not count. So I don't do that on purpose. Like it's not that I'm thinking purposefully I do not want to. It's just that how my mind, like one of my biases, because I'm always in this, me against me type of thing, has been that there's a lot of things that I don't acknowledge that I'm doing, or that I don't acknowledge that like this step is like foundation. Like if the thing is not completed, I will not count it. Right. So, for example, one of the things that I did today concretely was I was doing my end of year reflection. I do many of those, but there's one final that I do just to like really feel, because I need to feel. I have a hard time sometimes feeling that I've done a good job, right? That's one of my patterns. Perhaps it's one of yours too. And so every year I spend an hour or two and I go back, what have I accomplished this year? What did I get through? What has changed inside of me? What decisions have I made? What identities have I played with? How have things transformed? What happened in my life? Like just to have this little, like a full picture of like my whole year. And usually I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, like I did not, I had completely forgotten about this and about that, right? And then I realize when I look at the full picture, I'm like, okay, no, this was a year well lived, right? Like I made a lot of changes. I, really surpassed myself in many, not just in achievements, but also in like who I thought I was capable of being, right? Or in like new ways of living and stuff like that, right? Um, and so that's what I was doing today. And after when I was done, I was like, okay, I'm complete. This is done. Good job, Julie, and so on and so forth. Um, I don't know, I go in another room in my house, and as I'm walking, I don't know if it's the same for you, but me, when I'm walking, there's so many beautiful thoughts that come to me, like other things that I'm not thinking when I'm just sitting down. And I'm having this thought of like, oh yeah, and my book, and I'm like, oh my God, I did not even put the fact that I wrote 9 chapters. 9 chapters I wrote between August and December, right? It's a lot of work, right? 9 chapters is a lot of work. Plus, I had to think about the topic. I had to think about all these things, right? So, all that stuff I didn't write down. It didn't count for me. It didn't count for me because the final result wasn't there. I didn't finish the book, right? Instead, what it created in my mind was when I was so when I'm doing these end of year, reflections, there's a tendency in me. I have to like breathe in and like let it out because it comes back every time. When I'm looking at everything that I've done, I have the sensation that Christina was talking about that I'm falling behind. Like I can see the things I've done, but most importantly, I'm looking at all the things I haven't finished this year, you know? And one of the things is I wanted to finish my book by the end of December. I wanted to have written the whole 13 chapters. I can't remember now. I think it's 12 chapters. Um, and I haven't. And so the thing that came to me was not, oh wow, well done, you wrote, 9 chapters. Well done, you. No, that was completely disappearing. The only thing that stayed was, you have to finish that book, right? And so in the past, what I would have done is like, okay, when are we? We're the 28th of December. It's only 4 p.m. That means there's until midnight. It's 8 hours. 8 hours is like a full day, right? And there's 2 more days, 3 more days, right? And I will cram and I will do it and I will finish it, right? That's the energy that I would be in. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that's how I used to live. And there's still a part of that in me. So while right now the thought was not, okay, I'm gonna cram and the thought is there, but I'm just like, this is a terrible idea. There's enough awareness, no, and enough growth and healing that has happened inside of me for me to know that that is not the way to go. So I'm not even considering it. But what is coming up is I wanted to do a whole list of the things I need to do in January so that I can catch up, So it's the same energy. It's just I've expanded it a little so that the pressure is not as, but I could feel all the pressure. And when I started thinking of that, you know, all the things that came to my mind were, okay, so you haven't done that. You also said that like you would do a paid version of your quiz and you never ended up doing that. You just revised your quiz, but you never did. So this needs to be done in January as well. In January is when I do a lot of sales, right? Because I have my coaching programs and they usually, not always, but most of them start in January. So one of you, right, comes to me, starts a coaching program, right? So that's the moment when I start sending messages saying, hey, like, are you interested, right? Now would be a good time because I'm starting to enroll a lot of people. So this is a lot of work for me, right? And I love doing that. Every January, I reach out, I do all this thing. So this is about to start. And then I'm starting to pile it up. I'm like, okay, so I need to finish the 4 chapters of the book. Plus, now I need to also do the quiz, right? The quiz is a big deal because I need to do a lot of automations. I need someone else to do. It's a big, big thing to create, right? And so I'm adding it. And then I'm like, oh, you also haven't done, you said that you would be using the content from this show. So what I'm filming now, and I would repurposing content. So I would be, doing little, find a way to like cut little shorts out of this big content that I'm creating and putting it on social media so that people can actually have access to this and not have to come to YouTube. I still haven't done it because I don't know how to do it. I've never done that before. And so this list starts to pile up and the sensation of dread it starts coming to me. And if I allow it, like if I don't stop it, then before you know it, within 2, 3 minutes, what starts to happen is I'm like suffocating. I'm like, oh my God, so much pressure. Like, I was so happy for the new year, but all of a sudden I can feel like dread that like I will start the year feeling behind, right? Um, and so what I do about it is I don't allow it. The simple thing is I don't allow it. One is, me, I really believe in going back into your body when you get into your mind. I think that it solves a lot of things, not my own, principles, things that I've learned from others, but I find it really works for me and for everyone else. So, like, really breathe in and really breathe out, like, let it out. Do it as many times as you need, right? That's what I do. And then from there, I'm like, no, like no to this. Like this is the old energy, right? Old me who used to think this way. And I remember who I really am and who I chose to be throughout this whole year. I was playing a lot with it. Um, I went through a lot of ebbs and flows this year because I was both trying to build bigger things, bolder things, right? Than I ever have and have more impact to, well, way more women than I used to have, which I did, right? And so all these things take a lot of energy from me. I was also doing a lot of Tony Robbins events. Like I have been doing a lot, right? And at the same time, I have been learning to be a lot more too. And in order for me to be, I need to do less as well, right? So it's both doing more in terms of like my impact and like the scaling of what I do, but it's doing less in terms of like how much I work, how often I work, right? And like my life would not be entirely um, you know, taken by my mission and by my business and by the impact and contribution that I'm trying to create, right? And so this whole year for me has been both about scaling and slowing down, which has created a lot of conflict inside of me, because I was trying to find like what do I need to do now? Like what's appropriate now? Am I, hurting myself when I'm doing this? Or am I hurting my mission if I'm resting? Like all these different things, right? And so through this whole process for me, what has emerged is, I do a lot of identity work in my coaching sessions. All of the things that I'm teaching you guys or that I'm helping you, ladies go through in the coaching sessions or in a Sunday Sanctuary newsletter or here are things that I apply to you, but I also apply to me, right? Like I'm my first client. I'm the person I do this stuff all the time and I try it out and I see if it works. Try it out, see if it works, right? And I do this every single day, every day. There's like stuff that I do and that I try out. And then I try with you guys. I try with my friends. I'm like constantly trying new things out because I both want to be someone who creates a lot and someone who feels very aligned and peaceful and, filled with ease, and like, I don't know, like just the sensation of alignment is completely different than me being in a push. I'm a warrior, survivor, victor type of thing, which is not who I want to be, right? Yes, it can achieve a lot, but this is not who I want to be. It's not the beautiful life that I've imagined for myself does not look like that. I realized by going that right route, right? And so how I create that is then in terms of identity work, what I do is I imagine who I really want to be, right? And I look at like who I am and right now, like perhaps you can do that too. Who am I right now? Like in my life, right? In my life, if I were to give myself a name, like what kind of identity am I embodying right now? Like, am I a peaceful woman? You can find your own words, right? And the sillier, the better. But am I being, I don't know, someone who embodies peace? Am I someone who is joyful? Am I someone who's always busy? Am I someone who's cramming? So I try to identify who it is that I am and like what are the characteristics of this woman that I am right now. And then I look at it and I'm like, is this who I want to be? Most times it's a no. Even when I'm progressing, if I take the time to look back and look at my pattern for the past few months or the past few weeks, if I look back, I'm like, there's some tweaks to this, right? I can feel proud. I can see that I've evolved, right? I can see all these things. But most of the time, I can also see the cost, right? We were talking about the costs and the benefits. I can also see the costs of the identity that I've chosen. There were some consequences that I had not anticipated, right? And so from that identity of who I am or who I've been, then I try to think of like, again, breathe in, breathe out, completely let it go and start again. Who do I want to be? Right? And this, like how I'm feeling right now, like who do I want to be? Let's forget this other version of me that I created. Who do I actually want to be? Right? What does she create in the world? How does she create it? Does she feel stressed? Does she feel? And I start imagining first I do the opposite. So first I do all the characteristics. What does it look like? All these different things. And then from there, I create an identity for her. I'm like, who is she? Right. My identity now, my empowering identity has been, I've had a few throughout this year. I started the year with a nickname of being silly because I wanted to bring back the joy. I wanted to bring back the playfulness into my life. Right. And silly, right, this nickname had different characteristics to her that I still embody to this day. She was super useful for me. And at some point, I realized, hmm, silly does not define all of me because there's many times when I'm not being silly, right? There's bits of me. You'll always see an aspect of me that is playful and silly as part of me, but it's not all of me. So then another one that came from the Tony Robbins world. I realized that I had a nickname in the background, which was Sunshine, right? So then I was like, Sunshine kind of describes me because, it's not about being silly, but you can be silly as a sunshine, right? You like radiate light, you're like very positive, you're someone who is warm, a lot of the things that I identify with. So I was like, this is fantastic. And then after a few weeks or a few months, I was like, sunshine has a cost because sunshine is always pouring light outward. At least that's how I was perceiving it. So I was still feeling extenuated. Like I was having a beautiful impact. I was being the person that I wanted to be on the outside, but on the inside, like I was feeling emptier and emptier because I was always giving, giving, giving. Whereas silly, right, my previous identity, one of the beautiful aspects of her is she was all about play and what feels like joy, and so she was always filling her own cup. So then what I created is a third identity, which was a mashup of the two. I was called Silly Sunshine. I kept that one for a long time, quite a few months, because it was working really well. There was the joy, there was the warmth, there was like all the things. It feels very bubbly, right? Which is kind of my energy in general. Um, and then I started playing. I don't know exactly how it came about, but I realized that like one of the things that I was feeling, like when I was thinking about gratitude, one of my experiments that I was telling you about was that when I was doing my gratitudes every morning, when I'm thinking that like, what am I grateful for? I'm like, oh, I'm grateful for my coffee. I'm grateful for this, right? I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes if I'm in a great mood, I can usually feel it, right? But if I just say that, most of the times I can't really feel it. I just say the words. So, like mentally, it's there somewhere, right? I can see that there's things that are positive in my life, but I can't really feel the giggles and the joy and all the things, right? And so I started thinking, actually, in what ways am I lucky in my life? And I started playing around with this notion that I'm actually very lucky. And like, what if I had a bias in my life? I think I mentioned that in a previous episode with Christina as well. But what if I had a bias towards joy and towards being lucky? Like, what would that look like? Right. And I started playing around with that. And I realized, actually, this is fantastic because it makes me want to giggle. Just the thought, it is so silly, right? It is so silly to think that I have a bias towards being lucky that it makes me like it puts me in so much joy and so much like I feel childlike when I think about that, right? And then when I actually try to answer that question of like, what are the ways in which I'm lucky right now? I say my sentence right now, my primary question right now is called how did I get so lucky? That's how I use it. And then I actually go and find 10 ways that I'm actually really lucky right now. And so it gives me a whole other energy because I'm feeling lucky. Like I really feel it, no? And so I have to come up with something that actually makes me feel very joyful that it's happening. And so it's like, it's very deep and it's very intense. Like I can feel, you can see my smile, right? You can probably hear the tone of my voice if you're listening to this on Spotify and not seeing me. Um, but yeah, that's how I came up with it. And then from there, what I created was this identity of, lucky is that the name of the identity. And then I came up with I'm the luckiest girl in the world, actually, right? And when I say that, what's funny is like because I've been training, like saying that again and again, how did I get so lucky? Lucky this, lucky that, luckiest girl in the world, all these things, then I've noticed that in the most random conversations, I'm like, oh, how lucky that this happened. Like, like it keeps coming back. Like, this is how now I've trained myself to like, I have this lens now that I feel so lucky. And this woman has a specific energy. This part of me has a specific energy. This woman does not feel like she's behind. Behind does not exist when I'm the luckiest girl in the world. When I'm the luckiest girl in the world, everything happens exactly on time. When I'm the luckiest girl in the world, I have full trust in myself. When I'm the luckiest girl in the world, I trust the timing of things in life. I trust other people. I know that good things come easily to me. Like there's all these things that I don't even need to train myself to think about. Like this new identity, like when I go back into this identity and I remember who I really am, which is who I choose to be, right? Who you really are is who you choose to be. Who you want to be, who you choose to be, right? This is who you really are. It doesn't have to be someone that you've been in the past that you dislike. You have a choice of who you want to be and who you want to identify with, right? And so who I choose to be, who I really am, according to me, is the luckiest girl in the world right now. Perhaps it will change in a few months, but she has been serving me so, so well. And so if I go back to how I closed the year, when I went into that energy, then I immediately realized I'm not in the right identity. So I switched it. I was like, deep breath in, deep breath out. Okay, how did I get so lucky? I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Like review all these things and see what's lucky inside of it, inside of it. And through that lens, what came up for me was I was like, Julie, you are going back into a push energy. And it's not the push energy that has given you the most beautiful things in your life. It has created a lot of things, but it has also destroyed a lot of things, the push energy. Whereas this pull energy, the sensation that things can come to me, that like, I'm not saying that I'm not doing anything. You heard how much I've done this year, right? But this energy with which I was going about things most of the time was an energy of allowing, of saying, I am not sure I have all the answers, but I'll still try. Like, it's how I started this whole Good Girl Syndrome show. Not because I had all the answers, not because I don't do any editing, not because I'm lazy, not because of, just because I don't have the skills yet. Right? So I'm doing all the things thinking I'm the luckiest girl in the world. And whatever I'm doing right now is exactly what I'm meant to do. And you can probably feel in my energy, you can probably feel in my voice that like that has a huge, huge impact on how I feel and how I experience my life. Right. And so when I look back from that lens of that identity of who I want to be, right, changes everything about what I've experienced from this past year. I can look at every single experience and be like, wow, like, yes, there was some blessing in that, right? Even in the hardships, I will find because I have a bias towards finding it, right? And so that's how I'm dealing with it right now. That's how it feels like to me right now. It's not that I'm at this stage where I feel none of that, that I don't feel sometimes like I'm falling behind and all of that. But there's um, a default thought in my mind after a few seconds, a few minutes, right? It's very quick now, where I'm like, this is not who I really am. So perhaps that's a new belief that you can, steal from me. I'm giving it to you so you can just receive it. Is that like, you know, this is not who I really am. It's just not who I really am when I'm and this is not who I want to be either, right? And so now, instead of feeling powerless, what I can do is I can choose. If this is your first time doing identity work, then choose who you want to be. Do the little exercise I just told you. And if you already know who you want to be, right, then go back to this person. It just takes a little bit of movement. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And if you need a few more, you do it a few more times. a few more times. If it doesn't work, you move your body. You dance like a crazy person, right? You go out and you walk for a little bit and you remember who you really are, right? You brainwash yourself into a bias you have chosen and you choose who you really are. And from that place, you go back and you look at your year or whatever you're doing, because it works for the end of the year, but it works for anything else. You go back to whatever it was that you were through, looking at through a negative lens, and now you go with this beautiful lens and you will see all the beautiful things that come to you. It's like what I was saying to Christina the other day is like how you think and what you see is a result not of the reality of your life, because some things are real, of course, but most of the things are tinted by our perception. And most of us good girls, we have a very negative perception of things and especially of ourselves, right? We are very, very critical of ourselves. And so, my recommendation to you is change your focus simply by changing who you choose to be. So, that's how I deal with it right now. I hope this is helpful for you. I would be so interested to hear how you deal with these things. And if you've tried any of the things that I recommended today, I would love for you to tell me more about it. And yeah, please do ask me more of your questions. If these are helpful, go in the description box, go ask me more of your questions, share your story so that I can tell you, how I would coach you through it, what exercises and tools I would recommend, and also how I'm personally dealing with it. If you're seeing this and this is the last thing that you see from me before the new year, I wish you the best new year ever. All the best. All the love, all the joy, all the blessings, all the opportunities, right? All the inspiration and motivation, whatever it is that you need and want and deeply, deeply desire. I wish that you receive it all and you embody it all. Um, that's it, my friend. I'm sending you so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And till perhaps in the newsletter in an hour, if you're there. And if not, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.